1755. Okay. Now let's continue. The next thing we want to do is actually, if we select any other color, all the calculations or material, all the calculations will change, and the end result will be different as well. And once again, we have now nicely connected together three tables. This one for our detail, this one for the paints, and this one for the materials. They're all now connected and working together. Let us also take a look at other options for data validation. Remember, here we started tying the tables together by validating a material or a paint, and then continue with VLOOKUP. Now, for instance, data validation can also be used for setting boundaries for the hole that we drill within the detail. Now, this hole shouldn't be bigger than the detail's lower side itself, so it can't be bigger than B, and it shouldn't be negative either, because that would just mess up our calculations. So let's select this cell and do data validation, and here we have selected, instead of any value, nor have we selected list, but we have selected decimal. We say that the decimal, which is a number with comma places, should be between 0 and maximum is B. So we can see that not only shall we be setting the upper and lower boundaries, we can also say that the upper boundary cannot be more than B, which is in turn another cell in our worksheet. It's the lower side of the detail. Now, there is no need to use between. We can use, for instance, not between, or equal to, or less than, or greater than, and there are a bunch of options we can check out when we use that option. Now, next to decimal places, there is something called whole number, which also will have its own options. A whole number makes sense. I mean, it is without comma places. It makes sense, for instance, if we're selling books. We cannot sell 2,5 books, so that's when we use the whole number. It can also be next to list. It can also be a date or a time, or it can even be a text. So as we see, we can really customize these options. And when we are choosing the value, Microsoft Excel can also display some kind of a input message, like for instance insert in the range between 0 and width, and it can even give us error messages. So for instance, if the value is not within the allowed range, it can say stop and say error, D must be in range 0 to B. Or it can say a warning, which will let the user go nevertheless, which will let the user go this time, but just display that something is wrong. Or it can just display information about the incorrectness. But once again, 99% of the time we will be using data validation list.